G'day and welcome to another exciting episode of Jacob Lenhoff Tours the World. My name's Brian and Jacob's asked me if I could entertain you for the next 10 or 12 minutes by answering some questions that I'm sure, well, I'm hoping a few of you just might be very eager to hear about. Alright, well, let's get on the road, shall we? Tour question number one, where did I grow up? Well, bit of a long one. I was born in Cairns, far north Australia. Yes, you may have picked up on my accent, I am Australian. So I was born in Cairns, which is in the far north of the country, in the state called Queensland. At a very young age, we moved from Cairns a little bit further south to another country town called Rockhampton in the middle of the state. And by the time I was 5, I lived actually in Brisbane for the rest of my life until I turned about 33, and then I moved down to Melbourne, which is the capital of Victoria, so a couple of thousand kilometres south into a bit more of a colder climb. You may not know, Australia does get pretty cold, and yes, for all you Americans and Europeans, we do have snowfields down here. They may not be as great as yours, but we do have them nonetheless. What's it like to live in Australia? Well, Melbourne's a pretty great city. It's a very cultural city. It's probably more European than any of the other Australian cities. It's sort of akin to, a bit like London. I can say that when I travelled through London, I felt very much at home because it felt very much like Melbourne. Australia has a huge variety of climates because it is such a big country. The entire size of the Australian landmass will actually fit quite neatly into the United States and is about the same size, so it's pretty big. So you can imagine the US is hugely vast, and its geography changes quite a lot, and so does Australia. So most of the population in Australia lives around the coastal edge in a number of capital cities, and it's quite tropical in the north. In Queensland, you sort of move further west and it starts to get very dry, certainly in the middle of Australia. The great outback, as many of you will know it as. It's very dry and arid, it's desolate. You move right over into Western Australia, and again, it's sort of, in a way, it's sort of like California, where the desert sort of meets the beach in some ways, but it's very green. Perth is a great city, the most isolated capital city in the world. It's a city of a couple of million people, same sort of size as Brisbane, where I grew up. Sydney and Melbourne are around about 4 million people each in those capital cities. So look, it's a great country in many ways. It's very laid back. It's not as, I would say, as exciting as somewhere like Europe or the United States, but we have a great lifestyle here, and Melbourne has been voted, I think, for 5 years in a row, the most livable city in the world. So if you get a chance, you should come down here. Every capital city in Australia is very different. From the south in Adelaide and even all the way down Hobart in Tasmania, which is the little island right at the very bottom of Australia, nicknamed the Apple Isle because it looks like an apple on the map. Every city is different, and you're looking at a very different way of life in many. Brisbane, very laid back. Sydney, very, very strongly high-paced city, sort of like LA in a lot of ways. Melbourne, very European city. Is a big joke about Melbourne. Black is the new black in Australia. So you come to Melbourne, you'll see colour is not the thing. You go to North Queensland, everyone's still slightly in 80s fluoro. So yeah, we have a very laid-back way of life, and a lot of people will sort of characterise Australians as being very down-to-earth, very feet-on-the-ground type people. So much so, sometimes we can be a little bit cynical, and probably New Zealanders and the Poms will very much band together as brothers, because we have a bit of a thing called cultural cringe, and there's a bit of a tall poppy syndrome. So look that up on Google, what tall poppy syndrome means, and you'll see sort of what it's like to be an Australian. A little bit Japanese in a way too. All right, well, Jacob's asked me about the contests I've won. So yeah, look, I'm a bodybuilder. I'm a competitive bodybuilder, have been now for a number of years. I've been very fortunate in my bodybuilding career. Look, I'm 45 years of age and I didn't start until I was 40. So I've won a couple of national titles. a amateur Olympia title, and in 2013 I won for the first time, well, the only time I've won it, the World Masters Championships back in 2013. I placed third in 2014 and second in 2015 at the World Masters. So I've done pretty well, and I'm pretty chuffed at what I've achieved at that. And you can see behind me here, if I get out of the way, there's my little trophy rack, including my World Championship medal, which you can't sort of see down there, but the big bronze trophy at the back here was from Mexico back in 2014, or where I came third. And I've been really fortunate with my bodybuilding career, because going to international competitions, it's afforded me to travel quite a bit. So 2013, when I won the World Masters, I was in Mongolia, where that was held. 2014 was in Mexico. 2015 was in El Salvador. Beautiful countries, great, lovely people in all of them. This year, 2016, is the Dominican Republic. So working towards going back and hopefully winning my title. Still a bit undecided about what's going on there, if I'm going back or not. So we'll see what happens. Jacob's asked me a little bit about what sort of advice I would give to people who want to get in shape, maybe bodybuild, sort of the food and exercise, sort of what I suggest. I don't really make recommendations to people about food or exercise unless their goals are very specific. My biggest piece of advice to anybody who wants to take their body very seriously, and if you don't have to compete, but if you want to build yourself a body that is going to command a bit of attention, then you really need to get a good trainer. There are PTs and there are bodybuilding trainers. For me, I would always say never go past a bodybuilding trainer without checking them out, because they really know their stuff. They're different to a PT. PTs are fantastic for people who basically want to improve their health, their general well-being. Fantastic. Look, most of them are pretty knowledgeable. Unfortunately, here in Australia, you'll find a PT on just about every corner trying to get customers. It's a bit of an overpopulated career here in Australia. A lot of courses offered in that, and they're pumping them through, but you can find some excellent PTs out there, and I would always suggest having a PT is a great way to keep yourself in check. If you're starting out, it's hard to motivate yourself. Motivation can only come from within, so until you've actually made that decision to do something about your life and to change how you are, then it's not going to happen. Unfortunately for a lot of people, the thing that makes them make that decision about I've got to change something in my life is some sort of catastrophe, be it a heart attack, be it major illness or something. But once they're in crisis, then they make that decision, I've got to do something with my life. So if you can motivate yourself to not get to that point and start earlier in life, you're going to be way better off. Food is a big thing. So look, I'm not really ever going to say this is what you should do, because diet is different for every person. I would never suggest people be on the same diet. A diet should be individually written for each and every person, because there's a lot of factors to take into it: goals, likes, dislikes, time factors, what you're trying to achieve. So it's look, it is a difficult thing, and I would say it always needs to be done by a professional, somebody who really knows what they're doing and has your goals in mind. Exercise, yeah, look, any sort of exercise is better than no exercise. Getting outside, walking is fantastic. I do cardio in the off season when I'm not training to compete, just training generally, a couple of times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, and that's walking for 30 minutes. And it's always done at a pace, so it's at 6 kilometres per hour, so 3 kilometres in 30 minutes. And it's really vital to get your body temperature and your heart rate up over that entire 30 minutes in order to get your body into a state where it's going to be burning calories and hopefully getting into that fat burning stage, which is going to help you lose weight, of course. Role models, well, that's a big one. I'm nearly 46, so my role models span back to when I was a kid and was very interested, or started getting interested in bodybuilding. So Tom Platz, Franco Columbu, moving a little bit further forward, Tim Belknap and Nasser El Sombati were probably the biggest influences in me wanting to become a bodybuilder. I remember at a very young age finding that I was attracted to bodybuilding extremely young, watching a television commercial or waiting for this television commercial to come on the screen whilst watching TV as a kid, because there was a bodybuilder featured in this commercial and I was like, wow, that guy, he is amazing. I want to be like that. So it just sort of stuck with me. But I started going to the gym after high school. Actually, it wasn't until I was about 18 that I started going, and it was off and on, but I didn't really actually start in earnest until I was 40 years of age. So I was a late bloomer, so to say. Well, that's all the questions that Jacob's asked me to answer for you. So I hope you've enjoyed our little time together. Thank you very much to Jacob Lenhoff Tours the World and Jacob himself. Thank you for everybody out there for watching. Hope to see you sometime here in Australia. If you are, look me up on Facebook. Have a great day and see you soon. Bye.